conflict. Chapter 14. Mars Facility. I was going through all the logs and data maintained by Pandora and all the various bots that work throughout the solar system to building various structures and gather data. The mining process of the gas giants has started. Pandora started them to fuel some of her deep space probes and is planning on selling it to Earth alongside some of the excess ore she gathered from asteroids and the other planets and satellites. She is waiting for the press conference to get over so that she can use the help of the guild to sell the resources. The guild has been a good friend to the both of us despite our new friendship, and we both felt that letting them have some business would be a good way to support them. On the topic of true enemy Zion, Pandora has been working hard to find its true body. Despite being depressed, the thing has managed to keep its true body well hidden. I suppose losing its partner must have shaken it and put its self-preservation instinct to go on an overdrive. She did manage to find various portals to the alternate Earths that's present in this dimension. One of the ideas pitched by Pandora was to act as a mediator between these different Earths and encourage a relationship between them all. Despite none of them being a true spacefaring race, they could evolve side by side and grow faster. We decided to toss the idea to the guild. If we have too much trouble getting the point through to the people we know, then we decided to come back to it later. There is only so many things we can do to help these people. We're not going to be their answer for all their problem. That's only going to out them on a path of extinction. As I was busy with my thoughts, Pandora sent a message saying that the two patients are awake and not in great mental state. I make my way to the medical wing to find the one known as Mouse Protector being held back by nanomachines from the one called Ravager. Mouse Protector's eyes were filled with hatred towards Ravager as she screamed and raved, trying to get free to harm her fellow patient. Pandora decided to contact Tess, who informed all the guild members about their colleague's mental state, and they all wanted to help her to calm down. Pandora opened a portal and let them all in, after which they all comforted Mouse Protector as I watched Ravager look at their group with such sadness that one could feel it physically, but unfortunately she brought this on herself. Ravager decided this was the best time to distract herself as she saw me and walked up to me to thank her. Ares, thank you and your friend Pandora for saving me from that nightmare. I truly made a huge blunder by inviting those monsters into town to do something. My name is Elise and my alias is Ravager. Once again I thank you for saving me, she said as bowed to me and Pandora. You can call me Atrus, and you're welcome. I'm not sure about your future outside here, but as long as you are in my domain you can call yourself my guest, I told her as she gave us a small nod. Mouse Protector, who now looked more collected but was still angry at Elise, came up to us to thank us. Ares, Pandora, my name is Carol, or the hero known as Mouse Protector. Please accept my gratitude for healing me and getting me away from those monsters, she bowed and said in solemn tone that most people who know her would never associate with her usual playful and sarcastic manner. But being nearly killed, tortured, and joined together with another person in some twisted operation can change anyone. Please call me Atrus and you don't have to thank me for the help. It was the right thing to do. Like I said to Elise, as long as you are here you are my guest, so please feel free to rest and recover using the facilities here, I told to her, to which she just nodded. Tess looked at me and asked. Atrus, are we on your second base now? Yes, do you all want a tour? I questioned, to which everyone nodded. Pandora and I led them around as she explained all the various rooms and their functions. Elise and Carol looked a little more distracted from their troubles and the guild members were enjoying the sights. It was Elise who asked first, Atrus, Pandora, just where are we? To which we simply gave everyone a nanite bracelet that attached themselves to each of their users and produced a field of energy around them. As we led them to the exit to the base, Pandora told them all happily, welcome to Mars everyone, I hope you like your stay. Everybody looked in shock at their surroundings, even Tess and Ava, who had been to the moon base with us. The guild members started behaving like children on the red planet as Elise and Carol looked around in wonder. It was Carol who asked us, how did you even manage to build all this so quickly? And how are you both surviving here without any aid? Pandora gave them a quick rundown of our made-up origin story and they looked even more shocked than before. Once everyone had their fun, they were led back inside and both our patients were considered fit enough to return to Earth. Elise unfortunately will have to arrested, to which she simply complied, saying that she will atone for the mistakes she committed. Her sentencing will not be too heavy, that she would be sent to the birdcage so she might be out sooner than before. Once they were all ready to leave, Ava asked when could they strike Heartbreaker, to which I simply told her that I'm ready as long as she and her crew is ready. Ava asked me to meet her in an hour, to which I nodded. An hour later I turned up to the guild entrance with 50 drones that would disable any Heartbroken or anyone else from doing anything after the death of Heartbreaker. It was exceedingly simple. In fact, all I did was stand miles away as the guild personnel and dragon drones surrounded the ostentatious manor where the man stayed, surrounded by his mind-controlled victims. I could see the man, as he was surrounded by drugs and alcohol, as he had sex with one of his mind-controlled minions. At Ava's mark, the first fired a thin beam from my finger that avoided every obstacle and pierced his brain. He dropped dead right in between his thrusting, and his victim was startled by this sudden change and screamed out loud. Pandora and Tess both controlled their respective drones and rushed in alongside the troops, disabling anybody that got in their way with any less lethal weapon in their hands, including the containment foam. Pandora's drones, on the other hand, used wavelength manipulation to halt the movement of everybody they could target by immobilizing molecules. In a short amount of time, one of the most feared masters in world was killed. Pandora was working through her drones to distribute psi-bands to all the victims to calm them down as the guild set up camps in the area to help. All of Heartbreaker's children were captured and bound with power nullification nanites just in case anyone got the idea to escape. Seeing that I had nothing to do here, I went to Ava and told her that I'll be going ahead my plan for the day. After saying our farewells, I made my way to Africa as I sent more drones that I summoned from the moon base to each country and had them go to the current leaders and to every country, state, city, town, and village to broadcast this to them so that they know what was going on. I used this huge network to start a holographic projection of me that startled everybody as I simply appeared out of nowhere. Once they saw who it was, there were people who loudly cheered and people who were afraid that I was here to take over them and were scared. I asked everybody to calm down. Peace, children of Africa, you all know me as Ares, but my name is Atrus. If you fear me in thinking that you have only traded one tyrant for another, then please put your fears to rest. Since I'm responsible for the death of most of your leaders, I bear some responsibility in helping your current leaders to rise up. The documents that you see before you are the foundations upon which you can build up this continent. Go through this and speak to me, ask if you don't understand, and I will guide you. Other than this, I will help your crops grow faster, yield more, and make the quality of your harvest richer until you can pull yourself out. I will give your land enough resources that you can sell them to establish yourself as actual countries. But I will not act as crutch for you and will only receive these gifts to help you grow out of this slump. I finish as the people understand my sentiments. I spend a few hours guiding them in whatever way I could, with Pandora explaining to them vis my projections the more nuances of the documents that they saw. There were a few who wanted more benefits but quickly understood that I'm not the one to play such games with. The next half an hour went at giving them the help I promised in terms of their crops and resources. Once this was completed, it was already noon. Wanting to quickly go and treat the lands where Behemoth left his mark, the first departed Africa but let the drones remain if they still had question for Pandora. Behemoth's messes were easily dealt with as I simply absorbed all the radiation in the area and used psychokinesis to rebuild the lands as they were before. Various news agencies and tinkers still doing their best at following me around as I go around doing my work. Pandora had told me that my actions are going to be taken as the actions of Messiah-like figure, similar to Sion, and that a cult forming around my actions not only as Atrus but also as the cold-blooded Ares is only a matter of time. I really don't care as long as they don't harass other using my name, was the only thing I could tell her. One other cult, the cult of Endbringers the Fallen, were not liking my actions of desecrating the holy lands of the Endbringers and would have to be taken care of sooner than later. Ava was aware of this as well, but she asked me to wait for the press conference to get over, and since they are US territory that I would need some form of permission to operate there. Seeing the irritation on my face, she calmed me down and told me that it was just the government trying to act as if they had some power over my actions, but was simply a matter of getting the signatures of the right people. They didn't irritate me when I was in New York and the other place the Endbringers had struck because it really helped them with the reclamation of lost land, but didn't want me killing people in their territory, whatever. She said she'll take care of the nonsense. Now that the day is coming to an end, I fly above the Earth's atmosphere and take a glance at the Guild HQ. People are already starting to gather in anticipation of tomorrow's conference, and at this point I'm just waiting for it to get over as soon as possible. I fly to Moon Base to meditate for a while and prepare for the pain in the ass of tomorrow. Toronto, Canada. Ava and the rest of the guild were working at full capacity with Pandora watching on as the crowd of reporters, photographers, journalists, and everybody else was big enough that they had to set up temporary stands and roofing to help accommodate everyone. Dragon's drones were out in high numbers scanning the place constantly for any threats. The stage would only be there for Atrus, Pandora, Teresa, and Ava, who reluctantly joined as the leader of the guild. Once the time they gave the crowd had arrived, Ava turned and nodded to Pandora, who sent an alert to Atrus, who was meditating on the moon. He quickly got out of the base and flew at the guild HQ, only slowing down to let the people know that he had arrived, as seeing him sent the noisy crowd into an instant silence. The four people made their way to the stage, with Atrus in the center, Pandora on his right, Ava on his left and Tess next to her. He began seeing that everybody was ready for him. You all may have noticed it yesterday during my address to the Africans, but my name is Atrus. To my right is my friend and partner Pandora. We have been here since nearly 2 weeks now, have seen that my silence has rightfully unnerved a lot of the people, especially surrounding the particularly violent event that happened around me, so we both decided that it was for the best that we make some sort of communication with the masses before things get from bad to worse. He paused and started. I would like to thank Narwhal, Dragon, and the guild as a whole for putting up with my selfish request to host a meeting of such scale. Now that you know who I am, I should also make my origin very clear. I'm not person from this world. Me and Pandora were both transported here by some unknown phenomenon that has left us both stranded here. Now that you know both of these basic facts about me, you may ask your questions, he finished. The crowd went crazy trying to one-up each other, shouting questions. Tess let out a warning from her drones and stated, if I could draw your attention to the microphone towards the center, please walk up to it and ask your questions. Please try to maintain your behavior as professionals and do not force me from banning you in case of any trouble caused, she finished in a very cool tone. The crowd finally settled down as a man got to the microphone. Good day to you, Atrus. I'm Grant Jones from Kindred News. You said you were from an alternate Earth. Is it any of the ones we know about? And what do you mean by stranded? He sighed. No, once I found out that your world had found alternate Earths, I was ecstatic and thought that my chances of getting home would increase, but this led to nothing, and no, my planet hasn't made any contact with your. If it had been the case, you would have definitely known. Another journalist asked me to elaborate on what he meant. The Earth I come from is a lot more advanced and has never had the opportunity to see a parallel world despite knowing of their existence. If our planets had any connection before then, we would definitely know of each other, he finished coolly. Just how advanced are we talking about here? Is it like a few decades or is it more? One journalist questioned, to which he turned towards Pandora, who simply nodded. When nobody said anything for 5 seconds, the journalist asked, was something about to happen, to which Atrus simply pointed to the sky. High up above, something could be seen flying down at high speeds. Once the object got close enough, everybody's jaws dropped and eyes widened. For all the Tinkers on their planet, they never had one that unlocked the key to space travel and exploration. Sphere came the closest but was crushed by the Simurgh before he could even begin. So when the people here or at home saw an actual spaceship descend to Earth before flying back up, people were blown out of their minds. The crowd went nuts again, shouting out questions one after another before Tess let out another warning, which finally calmed them down. The first reporter began excitedly, the whole reason nobody could get in touch with you, every time you fly into the sky was because you flew to your spaceship?" he asked. Atrus shook his head. "These are recent creations of Pandora, most of them are droids meant for various purposes. One thing you need to understand is that I'm not limited by the same limitations like unpowered humans or para-humans. I can survive in space without any kind of support. The spaceships were built to help in storing resources or recording data. The only people that came here were me and Pandora. She is responsible for building the equipment you saw," he finished as the people were only left more shocked than anything. Pandora received her first question when she was asked, "Miss Pandora, are you a tinker in your world that specializes in space travel?" And when Atrus say you are his partner, does he mean you both are married? To which Pandora groaned and rubbed the bridge of her nose. "First things first, I am not a human being, I am a highly sophisticated AI created by Atrus a while back, that makes my relationship with him more akin to that of a daughter and father, so please don't mistake him for my husband. And you're still limiting your scope far too much. We have no tinkers who strictly specialize in only certain areas, the people of our world are more diverse. And my nature as an AI makes me even more diverse as I transcend more humanoid limitation and am a being of technology, allowing me specialize in multiple things," she finished like a teacher trying to explain something to a student. There were many questions asked about how she was so advanced and what her limitations were and so on, which she masterfully sidestepped, letting them know that she had no intentions of answering these questions. One reporter asked about their abode. "Do you both live on the ship?" Atrus shook his head. "We have bases on Mars and the Moon where we stay, you can ask Narwhal and Dragon, even the members of the guild for confirmation," he answered, blowing the minds of the crowd once again. One woman asked him, "Just how can you achieve all this so fast? We haven't even unlocked such capabilities and you can get stranded on a different Earth and simply pump out spaceships and moon bases? Where did you even get the equipment and the resources from?" she finished with a little whine in her voice. "There is a sizable difference between our civilizations. We developed far enough for that, but to be fair, I was different even amongst my kind. As for the equipment and resources, we had an entire solar system's worth to get. After getting it, it was simply a matter of assembling it, which is not that hard for us," Pandora told her sagely. Narwhal and Dragon both nodded, and Dragon said, "I have had the opportunity to visit both their bases. It is technology beyond even what I can understand, but Pandora has been helping me learn some of it. We need to understand that they both come from a spacefaring civilization. It's not fair to compare us to them even if we have para-humans in our world," she finished in an understanding tone. One reporter asked Atrus and Pandora, "If you both have such amazing technology, why did you say that you're stranded?" And instantly you could see the faces of the two in question fall. Atrus let a long sigh as he said, "When I saw this place for the first time on April 8, I had a very bad feeling. That feeling only got worse despite increasing our hopes after the discovery of parallel Earths. On the day of the battle in South Africa, I was forced to confront the truth that Outworld is not a part of this universe at all." He paused, clenching his jaws tightly, making everyone nervous. With the kind of advancements we had made, finding Earth-Bet and similar worlds should not have taken long at all. That was because of the differences in how our universes work. When I and Pandora got sent here, we didn't simply get sent to some parallel Earth. Our very existence was removed and placed in totally different universe altogether. No matter how advanced my tech is, I cannot breach universal boundaries and won't trying such a foolish thing without serious thought either. I could end up getting killed myself or dragging this universe to its death along with me," he finished gravely, making everybody sweat. "So you can never go back?" asked someone in a subdued tone, to which Pandora shook her head sadly. "We are trying, learning everything we can about your universe. I've sent deep space probes in every direction to collect data and have already reached Proxima Centauri and a little further. Given our states, we can handle the weight, but it might be too late before we can actually get something useful." "What do you mean by your states?" the same person asked. Atrus said, "Pandora is basically technology personified. Killing her or wiping her out is nigh impossible as long as any technology exists. She can simply create it, so that's pointless as well. And like I said, I'm unique even amongst my people. I don't change. this is it for me in terms of aging and such processes." He paused and took a breath. "The problem is that even if the two of us are immortal, the people we care about are not. They are long-lived by extreme margins, nearly unkillable as well, but it's not an absolute like it is for the two of us. By the time we reach our universe, eons might have passed. We might even end up in the wrong time period if we are not careful." He gave out a rueful smile and shook his head. "Nearly 3 decades of life gone because of something I don't even understand, with no hope of going back again. I don't want to talk about this topic anymore," he said as he crossed his arms as people finally understood why he looked so sad. Somebody asked him, "Since you are here, will you be staying on this earth?" To which he shook his head. "My pain only grows when I see people going about their day. It's like I'm watching history take place before me. Until I can deal with this, I will be staying on Mars. As for what I'm going to do is to help you all grow up faster, at least faster without my presence." He stopped as he saw the people light up around him. "The things that I did so far were things that only I could do. Now I'll share with you all way you can improve your life with technology that the whole world can produce and enjoy. I noticed that since Tinkertech cannot be mass-produced, the growth of technology has been very skewed here. Certain things are more advanced than the other, while many pieces are lagging behind. I invite everybody who is interested from various scientific communities, engineers, doctors, and more to learn whatever I and mainly Pandora are willing to teach you. Please do not expect us to give you all keys for space travel right away. There is a process to follow and the growth must be gradual. Since we both have time, we'll help out as much as we can. In the meantime, like Pandora said, we have sent out probes throughout the galaxy. We might go exploring to spend some time doing our own thing as well," he finished as the clamor began again. It was every day you got to learn the secrets of a super advanced human race from another universe itself. After people had made copies of the docs provided to the African people, the masses had noticed just how advanced the government would be if such administration could be followed, so everybody understood that this was in many ways the golden apple being handed over to them to improve their lives. "Atrus, I had one thing that bugged for a while. Why did you introduce yourself as Ares?" one journalist who had been waiting for a while asked. Atrus' face got a lot more serious and the people noticed the change in mood which affected everybody. He began gravely. "There can be no peace without war. Conflict is constant no matter where you go. It was what pushes us to improve, but too much of it can lead us to doom as well. My world was not some paragon of saintly people who went around helping people. The rise of my civilization was built upon the bloodied corpses of quintillions of species from around the supercluster." He paused as his eyes got sharper and everybody's face was paling as they heard him, unable to imagine the amount of bloodshed. "We cemented our place on a cosmic scale, letting all the worlds know that if they wage wars against us, we will fight back more brutally. We will wipe out entire stars, make entire spaces in galaxies uninhabitable for everyone if they messed with. That was war on cosmic proportions, where losing a few solar systems were considered as an acceptable loss by many species. And my people made ourselves a superpower amongst such worlds." He took in a breath with everybody trying to imagine a human empire stretching beyond entire galaxies. Ares was the being from the beginning who lead these battles. It was a title given to the greatest warrior, butcher, peacemaker, general, and leader. Ares will bath in the blood of entire planets if it meant the human race could survive another day." He stopped and shook his head. "It's best you all call me Atrus. Ares has no place in this world. He lost his purpose when he was thrown out of his world." The entire crowd stayed silent as they digested his words. It was easy to forget that even before the age of para-humans, humans have had a bloody history filled with bloodshed. Multiple wars were fought for them to reach this place here today, so to imagine a super civilization spreading across the stars without any conflict is illogical. But to know that it was their savior who waged these wars was an eye-opener, but they could imagine it thinking back at the massacre that took place in South Africa. "I think that it enough out of me for now. You may reach out to the Guild or Pandora to know about how the exchange of knowledge is to take place among us. Until then, I bid everyone goodbye." After finishing his words, he disappeared into the sky, going back to the Red Planet. The people started to ask questions to the remaining 3 speakers who helped to clarify how the knowledge exchange would take place and who was eligible to attend it. Back at the Mars base, Atrus was thinking back to the press conference and the amount of lies he had just told. A body of Pandora formed behind him. "You still don't like the scale at which you lied," she stated more than asked. He shook his head. "I still feel it was unnecessary for us to establish ourselves as originating from such a superpower. It feels a little cheap, to be honest," he said wistfully. "We need these people to respect and fear us in healthy doses. It is within our power to reach such heights and build a galaxy-spanning empire if we wish to. We are powerful enough to sell this, hence why this plan, otherwise they'll never stop hounding us for more help. At least in this they know not anger us in fear of retaliation," she said calmly. Despite how interesting she found the humans, she understood that they could get to nosy for their own good. "If you say so, I'm sure the people behind the scenes and on the top are pulling their hairs out trying to work out the next step in their plans," he said, making them both chuckle. "Starting now I'll start going to the Simurgh quarantine zones to help them out. Those people have been neglected for a long time," he said to her. "Very well, I'll let Ava know so that she can alert the relevant governments. I'll work with Tess to help teach the people here. Once you finish dealing with people in quarantine, we can tell Ava that we are ready to deal with the more imminent threats around the world," she said as the both went about their jobs. Ivory Coast, Cauldron Compound. "This is something I couldn't even imagine," Dr. Mother stated as everybody in the room were still trying to wrap their heads around what they just heard. "I never thought that there would be such an empire of humans out there somewhere," she whispered, trying to imagine her life in such an empire. "And we challenged their greatest warrior. It makes sense now, his strength and capabilities, just why they are so exaggerated. We aren't playing on the field here. He was dealing with entire galaxies worth of troubles with people having access to technology we can't imagine. Para-humans just don't come close to that kind of scale." The number man finished, shaking his head at their folly. "We must get in touch with him. If the humans of that universe were that great of a power, then their champion would have experience in dealing with threats that we can't even imagine. He can defeat the entity," Contessa stated firmly, for the first time feeling as though she had some actual hope at killing the enemy. "Narwhal had already asked us when they could deal with threats like Nilbogg and the Fallen. Once Atrus and Pandora enter the US, I'll personally go meet them and explain just what kind of a threat we are facing. If they build entire bases on planets and send out probes in a matter of days, you can only imagine the kind of technological power in their hands," Alexandria stated as they look at the pictures given to the public by Pandora and Dragon showing them the base of the Moon and Mars. It had shots of various mining probes going about collecting resources from not only asteroids and the planets but also the gas giants, which was something the scientific community was going crazy over. People were begging the guild for a chance to learn from the people who could single-handedly change their world. "We need our scientists to get into their knowledge exchange program without fail. This is an opportunity we might never get again." They were very clear that they might not stay on the planet for a long time, and given their immortal nature they might come back centuries later or might actually find a way to leave this universe. Dr. Mother shook her, not believing the scale at which she was talking about. "Before that we need to learn as much as we can from them. If we can even progress our current technology by a few decades, it will be a boon like no other," she finished firmly, to which everybody nodded, while Eidolon wondered how such a being could exist, while trying to picture himself as the champion for a civilization spanning galaxies. "Welcome to the Para-Humans online message boards. You are currently logged in, Ladybug Lady. Topic: A new thread. In, boards our savior from beyond our universe. Bagrat, original poster, the guy in the know, veteran member. Posted on, April 20, 2011. This is big, like when para-humans were first revealed. Level big. There are humans in another universe, one who have reached a stage that none of us can even comprehend still. And we are playing host to one of their greatest champions. It just blows my mind how fast both Atrus and Pandora are in building things we don't even have access to in a matter of hours. Pandora and Dragon have released the pictures and videos of both the Mars and the Moon bases here, link. I can't even imagine the level as which the other civilization is playing it. Over here we can't even deal with threats like the Endbringer, and those guy are freaking conquering entire galaxies out there. I never thought I'd say this, but the next time an EB shows up I'm gonna watch as they try to stand up to might of a human empire from another universe. The knowledge exchange is happening and Dragon and the Guild is being very serious about who they are letting in. The Canadian government and the UN are making an effort to keep this whole thing clean and as smooth as possible, because Pandora very clearly stated that anyone was welcome so as to not appear biased to any one country of anything. The world is changing, folks, and we are at center of it right now. This is a good time to be alive. Akri replied on April 20, 2011. I wish I could attend the meet. It really sounds like something to be a part of. The pictures and the videos of Mars and Moon are really mind-blowing. The seriously Aries living on Mars is just too cool of a coincidence, almost seems like fate. Chaos Faith replied on April 20, 2011. I still have chills going down my spine when he explained just what the title of Aries means, and it makes sense why he seems so untouchable here. In front of species from around the galaxy, capes are just too weak to even be put in the same sentence. Now I'm just waiting for EBS to get what's coming to them. TRJ, veteran member, Wiki Warrior, Cape Groupie, replied on April 20, 2011. Can you even imagine living in a human empire like that one? He just stated that the people there were all long-lived and super advanced and strong as well, just that he was unique even amongst them. Instead of taking vacations to countries I would be sightseeing the galaxy itself. What a life! Bathed replied on April 20, 2011. Don't forget that your enemies scale up as well. He literally said it out loud that the enemies of those humans sacrificed entire solar systems if it meant getting a victory. Sounds like scary place to me. Childrizzle, Wiki Warrior, Cape Groupie, replied on April 20, 2011. That's just the natural progression of things. As you grow up your problem grow up in scale as well. And the humans did become a superpower even in such a universe. Makes me feel proud to be a human. White Fairy, veteran member, replied on April 20, 2011. Just check out the amount of threats he's taken out. S-Class, Ash Beast, 3 Blasphemies, S9, Murdnag's monster form. Other capes, Heartbreaker, 107 other capes who tried to kill him. Fixed Leviathan and Behemoth's damage all around the world. Healed diseases that we can't even heal. And check the news now, he's actually helping Zizbombs right now, he can heal them as well. Mock Moniker replied on April 20, 2011. Holy shit! He can heal people from listening to the Simurgus song? That is beyond cool. That means that all the damage the EBS have done is completely reversed now. Canberra, Australia. Australia played host to Atrus for a second time as he and an army of drones controlled by a consciousness of Pandora were mind-healing the people of Canberra, who were later sent to the para-humans and psychologists standing by from the side of the Australian government to make sure that these people were ready to be released. As this process of healing was going on, the drone closest to Atrus suddenly halted and spoke. Atrus, despite you being immune to the various thinker powers, it seems the Simurg can actually feel the status of her victims. She is currently on her way here. The crowd went silent. Pandora didn't bother sending a psychic message as Tess was already informing this data to all the governments and agencies around the world. They would be finding it out anyway. Pandemonium spread as fear started to sprout in the hearts of the people, knowing that the Endbringer who was chased away after so much effort was returning to ruin their lives again. As the people were clamoring louder and louder, Atrus clapped his hands hard enough to silence them again. Pandora will continue the healing. I will see to it that the Endbringer does not come closer to this continent. Keep your wits about you and continue with the treatment, was all Atrus said in a calm and soothing manner which brought down the noise and fear. Atrus took off towards the Indian Ocean with a drone from Pandora following him. Is this necessary? I think I can handle an Endbringer on my own by now, Atrus told to the drone flying by his side. Oh, this just in case you need anything at all, it's best not to get too overconfident after all, Pandora replied in a sagely voice. He narrowed his eyes in suspicion and asked, You're going to record this damn thing, aren't you? He asked. Yup, this is the best way to establish your strength. We have talked about it and they have some ideas of it, but by seeing you take down their greatest threat they will believe you completely, she said firmly as if asking him drop the topic. Atrus simply sighed knowing that she won't let this go any more, simply increased his speed towards his target. Above the waters of the Indian Ocean. Since the last 2 weeks things were changing rapidly enough to affect the flow of the world as a whole. Para-humans she saw in future simulations were being snuffed out faster than she thought possible. And then the second trigger of the one known as Muradnag, something that almost never happened, had taken place and snuffed out so casually, as if it were all a joke. The worst part of all this was that she simply wasn't able to perceive exactly who or what was making these changes. Even blind spots could be worked around as they acted a huge hole in the simulation, but whatever this was, it simply didn't exist. You can't work around something that doesn't exist. Tracking it was just as useless until now. When she felt her bombs disarm, she knew that she could finally track this anomaly by going there right now, so she set on creating various tracking, scanning, and observation tinker tech for her to observe this anomaly. She never thought that it would come to her rather than running from her. Atrus reached the Simurgh fast enough to catch it off guard. The Endbringer was surrounded by various tinker tech which included a plethora of weapons and observation tech to actually perceive him. She opened fire at him as he simply absorbed all the energy-based weapons and the rest deflected off him, leaving no mark. He took control of all the tech flying around and transmuted all of it into a large block of mishmash of metal and threw it towards her, slamming into her as she fell into the ocean below, causing huge displacement in the water. The drone behind him simply fired 2 beams to still the water and make it fall down gently. He disintegrated the block of metal as the Simurgh shot at him from the water, singing its tune, which was even more useless than the tinker tech. Invictus had made his eyes appear cold and calculating as he saw her rush at him. He moved aside from a wing swipe and punched so hard that everything around them violently shook and the Endbringer was launched miles upon miles in another direction. The Simurgh's body, unlike its brethren, was more hollow as its body acted as a decoy to hide its core in its shell. This fact wouldn't really matter if it faced a para-human, as only the space warping powers could really penetrate its body with less effort, and even then their healing speed and overall better physical stats made them near invulnerable. But right now its body looked warped and cracks were running all over its surface. Quite a few of its wings were torn from its body, which were limply following its owner as she was forcefully launched into a direction. Atrus appeared behind her to kick her into the air, shaking the ocean below. Again the Simurgh was yet again launched into another direction without even being able to retaliate. It managed to stop itself using its telekinesis and started to pull water from the atmosphere and the ocean and made them into tiny bullets and launched them at hypersonic speeds at Atrus. He willed his own psychokinesis and waved of the attack. When she tried to crush his body directly, the field permeating above his skin halted any attempts at harming him. He willed orbs of energy which started to shoot her at speeds she couldn't avoid, reducing her size rapidly, destroying her more and more by the nanoseconds. She realized that this was not an opponent she could take on and began to flee. But before she could get going, Atrus appeared near her and closed his hand around her throat and flew off into space at beyond light speeds. He slammed her into multiple asteroids and punched her hard enough to disintegrate a lot of her body via the sheer physical force behind his punch. Already having determined the location of her core, he casually created a beach ball-sized orb of energy which looked like a red star. Firing it at her, the orb exploded violently, with enough power to wipe out the surface and some more of any planet within its range. With a bright explosion, the core of the Simurgh was absolutely destroyed, leaving no trace of her. As he flew back to Earth, he said to Pandora, "That's one down. The Leviathan was supposed to be my opponent in a few more days, but things changed out of nowhere. I wonder if he will still attack or we will see the rise of a new Endbringer. I'll keep an eye out on all the Endbringers, even the ones currently locked away, to find out what their reaction is going to be at the death of their sibling. For now, let's wind up with the mind healing in Australia and head to US to complete the round there, Pandora told him as they flew down to a cheering crowd who just witnessed their personal devil and the first Endbringer kill in the history of mankind. Thanks for watching.